When it comes to breakups, the term no contact is pretty much everywhere.
The no contact rule.
All right, let's talk about the no contact rule.
How no contact affects your ex's brain.
Yet when people talk about the no contact rule, there's this natural assumption that if they do it, it will make their exes more likely to reach out to them. Essentially, they've completely bought into this idea of psychological reactance, which in psychology, reactance is this unpleasant motivational reaction to offers, persons, rules, or regulations that threaten to eliminate specific behavioral freedoms. So the theory goes like this. You ignore your ex, thereby taking away their freedom of talking to you, and because of this, they'll be more likely to reach out to you. And there are definitely cases where this does happen. Case in point. So a few years ago, I actually asked people in our community to give me a few examples of the crazy things they've seen their exes do during a no contact rule. And they did not disappoint. Over 89 people responded. But without a doubt, this person's experience with the no contact rule took the cake. They basically go on to say that their ex called them 72 times in 5 days over Facebook Messenger, their work phone, personal phone, Google Voice account. That is on top of texting. They even tried to request $1 from them on their Facebook Messenger to get them to open up the app.
What did you just say?
Then they kept a log. And then of course you can see as they literally go through the log day by day by day. But what if I were to tell you that stories like that create a very dangerous precedent when it comes to the no contact rule? They convince you that it's the norm when it's not.
So jumping right in and explaining why no contact works, when you really start to understand why it works, will kind of ease some of that fear.
So what's impactful? Like that we all like to know that we matter, especially to someone you love.
Going no contact is perhaps one of the most powerful things you can do.
Like, I want to text him and be like, you know what, don't worry about me anymore. Let's just never speak again. And then you're going to be upset.
We're speaking of the no contact rule.
So whether the goal is to win your ex back, move on, you're on the right track.
I want you to check something out. So this is a poll that I ran in our community in 2020, basically asking people how many times their exes reached out to them when they used the no contact rule. As you can see here, 64% of people said that their exes did not reach out to them during the no contact rule. So really this idea that's out there in the collective consciousness that if you do a no contact rule, it's going to make your ex reach out to you or double the chances that they're going to reach out to you, that's just simply not true. At least if your marker for them missing you is them frantically reaching out to you a zillion times during it. Yet when I spend hours interviewing success stories who basically sing the no contact rule's praises, how is it then working? Where is the disconnect in the data? Well, this is really where the insanity behind the psychology of the no contact rule comes into play. And it's really going to require you to shift your paradigm in the way that you actually view a no contact rule.
No. There was no contact, dude. There was no contact whatsoever.
So, what has the actual data that we've talked about established so far? We've learned that the no contact rule uses psychological reactance as evidenced by the Wikipedia article. And sometimes the psychological reactant aspect of the no contact rule can make exes act a little wonky, as evidenced by the crazy screenshot. Basically this. Yet, contradictory real success stories who have gone through our program, successfully gotten their exes back, or even gotten over their exes, swear by the no contact rule. They sing its praises. So we know that on some level, the no contact rule is effective. And I guess my leading theory on why it's effective has a lot to do with your ex's attachment style.
Roots and impact of 4 different attachment styles.
Attachment styles. There are 4 main attachment styles we have.
Coolest way of thinking about attachment styles recently.
Change your anxious attachment style to a secure attachment.
Look at this. This is a poll that I conducted in 2021 asking people what they would classify their ex's attachment style as. As you can see, the results were pretty overwhelming. 67% of people said that their exes probably had an avoidant attachment style, and there were a lot of people who took this poll. Over 337 people voted. Now, when it comes to dismissive avoidance, the best way to understand how they operate is by looking at 2 core factors. Their core wound, and the fact that they're going to chase the honeymoon high. All right, so let's talk about the core wound aspect first. Now, every insecure attachment style will have a core wound. Think of the core wound as like the thing that you can do or someone else can do that will trigger the insecure aspects of every single insecure attachment style. So if the core wound gets triggered when someone is anxious, preoccupied, like most of our clients, they'll be more likely to beg for their exes back to try to fix that problem. If the core wound gets triggered for someone who's an avoidant, well, they'll be more likely to, you guessed it, avoid the situation altogether. So what is the core wound of an avoidant? Well, essentially it's anything that threatens an avoidant's independence. This can be things like becoming official in a relationship, talking about moving in together, actually moving in together, going ring shopping, talking about kids, having kids, getting married. These are all the things that trigger an avoidant. So we've already established that statistically your ex is going to exhibit avoidant attachment tendencies. Therefore, they're really gonna love the silence they get from you via the no contact rule. And I can already see people naturally panicking at this point because they're gonna be thinking, well, won't my ex just forget about me because I'm not there? Especially if they're enjoying their time apart from me? And to answer that, we really need to dive deeper into the avoidant psychology. See, one of the craziest things about avoidant exes I've noticed is they're caught in this endless self-fulfilling cycle. And essentially, the self-fulfilling cycle is them chasing one honeymoon period to the next honeymoon period to the next honeymoon period to the next honeymoon period again and again and again. So take my avoidant death wheel as an example. This graphic basically shows you the 8 main phases that most avoidants will find themselves caught up in as they go from relationship to relationship. So they basically start out desperately wanting someone to love them, because you know avoidants want that too. They find you and they are overjoyed. This is the first honeymoon period. Then something inevitably will trigger their avoidant side. Essentially, usually it's going to be one of these things. Then they start thinking about leaving. Then they actually do leave. Then they go through what I like to call the separation elation phase. This is the second honeymoon period. They've just gotten their independence back. They're overjoyed, but that doesn't last forever. Eventually, loneliness begins to kick in for them. And then they start wondering why this is always happening to them, leading them back to the very beginning of the cycle. And around we go. From relationship to relationship, and sometimes from the same relationship to the same relationship. But what I think is the most fascinating aspect of this death wheel concept is the fact that they are literally just chasing honeymoon period to honeymoon period, these little small spurts in time where they can feel as if their core wound isn't getting triggered. And really think about it from their perspective. The honeymoon period in and of itself is exciting because the threat of commitment is low. You're just enjoying the moment. And really, that's what an avoidant loves. They want all the amazing benefits of feeling loved without the threat of needing to commit to someone. And it's usually when the relationship evolves and deeper commitments begin to be demanded that the avoidant starts looking for ways out. This is the transitionary period between stages 3 and 4 in that death wheel. But I actually want to draw your attention to stage 6 of the death wheel. Notice how it's directly across from stage 2 on the other side of the death wheel? That's because stage 6 is the separation elation period, the second honeymoon period. I'm actually going to pull from my favorite avoidant attachment resource, this really great website called freetoattach.com. Definitely check that out. But essentially, I want it to give you the lowdown on the separation elation period because it can word things better than I ever could. So I quote, "After a relationship ends, people with an avoidant attachment style tend not to show much anxiety or distress, often feeling an initial sense of relief at the relinquishing of obligations and the sense that they are regaining their self-identity. They don't tend to initially miss their partner. This is separation elation, as the pressure to connect is gone." So essentially, your ex just basically goes into party mode because from their perspective, they've just gotten their independence back. They go through another honeymoon period. And the funny part about this is the separation elation period literally occurs when you would most likely be doing a no contact rule anyways. So do you remember earlier when I said that most exes won't be reaching out to you during the no contact? Yeah, well, This is why. They love the silence. But here's the interesting thing about avoidance and silence. It's required to make them miss you. A little lower down on that research that I cited from freetoattach.com is this little tidbit. Avoidants are free to long for an ex once that person is unavailable, out of a relationship, and typically out of contact, so they are untouched by the actual engagement and their deactivation systems aren't triggered, revealing their long suppressed attachment and switching their operating attachment wound from the fear of engulfment to the fear of abandonment. This might actually explain why so many of our success stories swear by the no contact rule. It's likely because they are okay with giving their ex space and not only refusing to contact their ex via the no contact, but working to actually get over their ex during it. This, in my opinion, is the secret sauce for what actually makes an ex miss you during the no contact rule. And the funny thing is, no one ever talks about it. Unfortunately, there is some debate in the breakup industry about how long the no contact rule should be. Now, typically, I've always recommended 3 specific time frames. The 21-day rule if your ex is an anxious, preoccupied, or a fearful avoidant attachment style. The 30-day rule if your ex has a secure attachment style. And the 45-day rule if your ex is a dismissive avoidant. But I've seen other people suggest longer periods of the no contact rule. For example, this WikiHow article basically says 60 days is the ideal no contact rule. This Mind Body Green article says 60 days. This website called X Back Permanently suggested anywhere from 3 weeks to 6 months. There's a lot of debate out there, but there's not a lot of agreement. So I actually went out and interviewed a working psychologist, Julia Christina, and asked her specifically how long she thinks the no contact rule should be.
Timing of the no contact rule. How long is this period?
Okay, so I'm basing this off of science in other areas, but I'm going to say 90 days.
Okay.
When you think about 90 days is the probationary period at a new job. That's how long it takes, to kind of get your handle on what's going on in a new job, to start feeling settled, understand what's happening when it's, that whole level of newness.
So, 90 days. Now, at first when she said this, I kind of disagreed with her. And of course, I cited my habit rule as my defense. Basically, research shows that it takes around 18 to 250 days to form a new habit with an average of about 60 days. But then I started thinking about something interesting. The most common time frames that my clients use on their exes usually is around 45 days. Yet I'd say probably our average client breaks the no contact rule around 2 times before they successfully complete it. It's hard. So our rule with the no contact rule is that if you break it once, then you have to basically start over from the beginning. In the end, when you add up the amount of time people actually spend in no contact, it's pretty close to 90 days. So there might be something to this. What this ultimately might mean is that you should embark on doing a 45-day no contact period, and then once you hit day 45, decide if you still want to reach out to them, or if you need more time, take more time. The one consistent thing that I've seen our success stories say when I interview them is that it really wasn't until they outgrew their ex that they started to see the results. And I think that's the name of the game. More than anything, more than all the psychology I just talked about, it's really about using the no contact rule to outgrow your ex.
If we stay stagnant who we are and we don't evolve and we don't see ourselves reaching new goals and new heights in our life, there's no intrinsic motivation. So challenge yourself to make yourself uncomfortable and actually follow through with the program and do things for you.